All right, so welcome to today's technology training. Today, we're going to talk Paragon, and in particular, we're going to talk CMAs. So there's two different options in CMAs when you go through Paragon. There's what's called a quick CMA, and then there's, I guess, what you call the full-blown CMA that a lot of us are used to. So I'm actually going to go through both of those today, starting with the quick CMA, giving you some just tips and tricks on some different things that I've discovered through using the system that just helps you price homes at the best level possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, no matter which MLS you're part of, as long as you're operating with Paragon, then you're going to be able to use this, and it will flow similar. You might have different colors and things like that, but all of the Paragon systems basically work the same. So today's CMAs, so comparative market analysis. This is how you establish potential values of a home based off of comparative sales. So what we're going to do is we're going to click CMA. First thing I'm going to show you is an easy CMA. So we're going to go to create easy CMA. That's going to open Paragon Connect. You can see here's a bunch of CMAs that I've done. But before we get into actually doing the CMA, and don't worry, I'm going to walk you through and show you exactly how to do that. I want you to set up a couple things. So up here you can see CMA reports and then CMA settings. I want you to go ahead and go to settings, and I want you to go to adjustment defaults. Now, yours is going to maybe have adjustments off, so you're going to click this button to turn adjustments on, and then yours will say zeros, or these columns will be blank. What I want to explain that this is doing is anytime that a home, so we have our subject home 123 Main Street, that's our seller. We're trying to figure out a price for them. If we look at a comparable home that sold close to them, and let's say the subject home is 3 bedrooms and the other home that sold had 4 bedrooms, well, then we need to do a value adjustment for the difference in the number of bedrooms. So I've kind of just assigned some default values that I've gotten from some local appraisers and networking with other agents and seeing what they're doing. And this is kind of the numbers that I've come up with that work the best in today's market. Now, I will caveat this and say, depending on when you're watching this video, since it's going to be on YouTube, this is November of 2024. So if you happen to be watching this in 2025, 2026, pretty good chance these numbers aren't going to work for you anymore. So you do want to review this. I review it about once a quarter, if nothing else, at least twice a year to adjust these numbers. But here's what I have: $2,000 for additional bedrooms and baths, $10,000 for bathrooms. Now, caveat to that, it really depends on what type of bathroom you're looking at. Like, are we looking at a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home, 1,000 square feet in a average neighborhood? This number might be closer to like 7 or 8,000. Or are we looking at a home that is a luxury home that's $1 million home? This bathroom is probably worth significantly more. Like to put in a bathroom would be significantly more than $10,000. So just know I'm using averages based on the averages of the market here. Partial bathrooms, which would be basically a half bath, $5,000. Approximate living square feet. Now this is for every 50 square feet. So I'm using $100 a square foot. Which equals to, for every 50 square feet, $5,000. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, if you're watching this, like $100 a square foot, well, my area sells significantly more than that. But keep in mind, the difference in the comparable should be less than 10% in a perfect world. Now, I know we don't operate in a perfect world, but less than 10%. So we're really talking about like a little bit of closet space here, a little bit of closet space there, not full blown like we're adding rooms to a home. So that's why we're using a little bit of a lesser value. And most of the time that appraisers don't adjust for anything less than 50 square feet anyways. Garage capacity, so that's $10,000 for each car. So a home with no garage versus a home with a single car garage, $10,000. If it's attached and detached, that can change the values, but don't worry, you can adjust it. We're just doing generic sizes as well. And then lot size and acreage. I do a manual adjustment for acreage. Most of the properties that I sell don't have significant amount of acreage, so that's why I do that. If you do focus on rural areas and you know that acreage adjustments, whatever, making up a number, $10,000 an acre, then you would need to put that in, but you wouldn't put in 10,000 because this is adjusting for 0.05% of an acre. So you need to do the math and put that in, or you can just do it manually, however you prefer. But you're going to plug in these numbers that I have here and plug them in there, and then just hit save. And then a couple other things in the settings just to run through it pretty fast. You do want it to automatically reflect the changes in status and price, which means if you create this today and a home changes its price tomorrow, that will be reflected when you pull up the new report. CMA introduction. This is going to be your intro. So this is my intro. You can feel free when you're watching this later, pause it. Basically recreate this if you want. I just use ChatGPT to create this, but this just says who we are and what this report is basically doing. Then a footer at the end if you want to put in any legal things like square footage to be independently verified. This is just an estimate. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get this much for your home. Any of that legal stuff you can put in. I don't do it. And then provide feedback. If you want to give feedback on the experience, you can do that through there. But again, we're focusing on how to build reports. So we're going to jump straight into this. So once we have those default settings set, next thing we're going to do is we're going to come hit this little plus sign in the bottom right hand corner, and we're going to plug in the address. So I'm just going to pick a random house. We'll do this one. It shows on the map where the house is, so that looks like it's in the approximate area. Then we have to fill out, this is the info on the house, which by the way, that is not the house. But, just so you know, like this part doesn't matter a whole bunch, but just in case you wanted to, you could actually like use these arrows to get down to, where the house actually is and take a picture of the house if you want to. So this is a single family residence. It is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, no partial baths. It does have a 2-car garage. Living area is actually 1812. This is, I know this house is why I know all this info. Normally you go to the PBA and pull up all this info, but we're gonna go next, and then it automatically pulls in comps. So you can see here, if I look at the map up at the top, you can see this is where it pulled all the comps from. And one of the things that I wanted to point out to you is, it's real estate happens hyper local, meaning like the neighborhood it's in matters. So the proximity to the property matters. And so, for example, this is the Summit neighborhood in Owensboro, Kentucky. That's this little section here. This is out on the highway. This is, on 1389. This is in, I believe this neighborhood's called Wrights Acres. And a couple of these properties don't really match what we're looking at. So if you see here, number 7, that's too far away for comparable purposes. So if I come down, and by the way, if you click this, over top of it, it'll kind of zoom in just so you can kind of see where stuff is, and then you have to zoom back out. But I'm going to go through now and eliminate all the ones that aren't in the neighborhood. And you can either go by the numbers, so you can see here it's number 2, so that's going to coordinate up here with number 2. But I'm going to go ahead and remove out a couple of these properties. Alma Court. And you can just reference the map. I just happen to know this area very well, so I know what's in and what isn't. So these are the 4 properties that are actually in the neighborhood of the subject property. The next thing we need to look at is our adjustment value. So you can see these are all 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. This one is, so there's no adjustment here. This one has 1,328 square feet. You can see it automatically adjusted for the additional square footage, meaning that the subject property was 1,812 square feet. This one's 1,328 based on the automatic calculations that I just showed you. It calculates 48,400, and I'll at the end show you how all this ties together. The next home is 4 bedrooms, so it has an extra bedroom. So you can see it took off the $2,000 because it's 1 bedroom bigger than my subject property. 2 baths, which is the same, but then has a half bath as well. So the house the subject property doesn't have the partial bathroom, so that's minus 5,000. And then the square footage is 1,711. You can see it added $10,000 for the square footage. And then we go through and just double check everything's the same here. Now, this one's 1,328. It's significantly smaller, but kind of still in the range. This one is 2,410. Again, smaller, but still somewhat in the range. But then this one, look how many square feet this is. This is 4,836. That's not even the realm of the subject property that we're looking at. That's not a true comparable. We can take the price per square foot into consideration maybe, but it's not a true comparable. So I'm going to remove that one. So now I have 3 properties that are similar as similar gets for this neighborhood, not a ton of sales in this area, with adjustments to the square footage. I don't actually need to go in and adjust anything at this point, as long as I'm not making manual adjustments for condition, for lot size, and things like that. And if you do have to do a condition, like let's just say this home was in significantly better or worse condition than the subject property, you can come into adjustments and notes, and you can adjust any of those numbers. So you can see here the square footage. Here's that 4840 there. And if I was going to adjust for condition, I would adjust off the square footage and make a note here. So just for illustration purposes, I'm going to change this to 30,000, and I'm going to say 18,400. Oops. Condition adjustment under approximate square footage. And you're putting this in A as a reminder to you, but then also when you're meeting the client, if I could type, when you're meeting the client, letting them know, here's where I made those adjustments. God, I really cannot type today. And then I'm going to hit save. And you can see here it adjusted it down. This was the 48.4 number. Now it's down to 30 because I'm basically saying this home is not in as good a condition as the subject home. And then once we've done that, I want to show you a couple other things. You can edit the comp order, so I can swap them around, move them around however I want. I actually like the order of these. You can manually enter comps, so you could either do an address or a listing ID, which basically means you could come up here and look up a home. Oops. And let's just say we're going to take this one. And I can either search by address, 6656 Waterford. So then I would come in here and do either an address search or an ID. ID is your MLS ID, but I'm just going to do this, 6656 Waterford Place. You can see it pulls up. It's going to select that. Here it is. And if I hit this select comp button, you'll see it'll add it into my comp. So now it just added in this one. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. If you don't pull any comps, you can hit generate new comps, and it'll actually ask you certain questions about where you want your comp parameters, things like that, and then you can do the adjustment off of that as well. But next thing we're going to do is click generate CMA. Again, you can navigate to the house if you want the house in here, because this is going to print with part of the photo. For time's sake, I'm not going to do that. Here's the introduction that we set on our settings. Here's our suggested price based off the comps, which you all know how comps work. It takes basically the adjusted value of each one and runs an average off of that. It gives, and you can edit this. Like, let's just say that, you know, in my heart of hearts, I truly felt like this was not a 304 house, and I felt like it was like a 294 house. Then I can change that. I don't remember what that number was, but I can change that. The only thing is it has to be within these parameters. So if I know that there's no way the max price on this house is 320, like, and I know this house, so there's no, it's my house, if I'm being honest. So there's no chance that it's going to be worth 320. I know the house. So the max I think the house is probably worth is around 305. And then I can put my minimum price, and then I can save that and adjust the comps accordingly. So I use this a lot. Like you saw that had the 304 number. Well, A, I just don't truly believe my house is worth more than 300,000. But then B, if I need to get them under a threshold, because remember the power of the advertising is 299, or right at the 300 number, you're going to show up in the 250 to 300 search and the 300 to 350 search, versus if you're 305, you might only show up in the, or you will only show up in the 300 to 350. So you could miss a whole pool of buyers. Just pay attention to that when you're on that cusp of price points. Think about consumers and where they are potentially looking at buying and what prices and so on and so forth. But it gives you all the subject property details here. It tells you where the comps were pulled from. Ideally, they're in the same neighborhood or very close. Gives you what the comps are and the adjustments that we did on them. Again, you can come in and edit those. Kind of does the comparable pricing value. So what's the highest one that sold? 390. What's the average? What's the lowest one? Says that they were sold, pending, or active. And then it gives you also values down here of 3 different valuation models: Zillow, RVM, which is basically RPR, and then Easy Value. I think that's through Black Knight, if I'm not mistaken. Then it gives your brand and all of that stuff that you have set up. So here you go. You have a full-blown CMA. You can click up here at the top. You can click print, and you can either print this, download it, save it as a PDF, so on and so forth, and you have a full-blown, quick and easy CMA that you can use effective right away. And you can see it just puts it in a format that's really easy to read. Here's our subject property. Here's all of our comps. Here's our suggested price that we adjusted. Here's the high, low, average, and median of all the comps. Here's those comps here. And so it just gives you all of that information. So just wanted to run through. This is honestly, I use this more than I use the full-blown CMA. it's just faster in my opinion, less setup, less research on my end because it kind of auto pulls comps. And I'll say, as long as you're in a neighborhood or somewhere that has a decent amount of sales, this works really great. If you're more rural and you have to manually pull comps because it's not finding anything that matches, that's when the second CMA kind of takes off or does better, I guess I should say. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the full-blown CMA as well. I wanted to run through the quick one first because that's the one you'll use the most. But we're going to come to CMA. And now let's just say that we're going to do a full-blown CMA. I want a big, 20-plus page report. I'm really trying to impress my client or business or whoever I'm working with. First thing I'm going to do is you need to do is come into CMA Preferences Wizard and open this up and start it. It gives you a cover letter, by the way. This is pre-filled for you. So you can come in and read this and adjust this in any way, shape, form that you want. This is the default. I never even actually changed this. Then we're going to go next. It's going to work you through, like, do you want to use the agent resume? So do you have an agent resume? If so, plug that inside of here. And it's going to walk you through all of these steps. Some things you can edit, some things that you can't edit, and you're going to work through this. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Just know, like, it's worth 30 minutes. If you're going to use this, it's worth 30 minutes going through and making sure that you have this set up exactly how you want it set up. And you can even customize fields. So I'll show you what that looks like. Like here, it has address, MLS number, blah, blah, blah. You could actually include bedrooms, baths, again, fully customizable, just takes a little time. Spend 30 minutes inside of this CMA wizard and you'll be significantly further along than most people when it comes to making a full-blown CMA. But let's jump into how you actually create a CMA. So I'm going to come into CMA and first thing I'm going to do is create a residential property because if it's not in the MLS, then we have to create it. So I'm going to go through and fill out basically the bare minimum stuff that I need here. And I'm literally, I put way too much money. There we go. I'm filling out only what it makes me fill out. I would put in bedrooms and baths for intents and purposes. I'll give it to that. I just wanted to double check something real quick. And then I'm going to put in the year built, 1998, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, no half baths. Definitely want to have the square footage in there, the finished square footage, so on and so forth. And then I want to have garage. Make sure you put in garage. I got to remember where that's at. That's down below. Right here, garage. So I'm going to do a attached 2-car garage because that's what this one has. Okay. And obviously, the more info you put in, the better off this is going to be. For time purposes, I'm just putting in the basic information. We're going to click Save Subject Property. Subject property has been saved. Continue input, or you can close it. Next thing I'm going to do is come up to Create Presentation now. And we're going to put the presentation name. I'll always put the address here. It just makes it so much easier to be able to find in the future. Turn my caps off here. I'm going to load the subject property because remember we just created that. So you can come down and either find it inside of here. Oh, I didn't put the address in. So don't forget to put your address in. I'm going to hit OK. Obviously, I didn't add pictures and stuff, so you can do all of that and it'll format it. And then what you're going to do is kind of work through this. You can edit this, by the way. So again, I didn't put in the picture. I didn't put in the address. I can come up here to edit. We're going to put in 6518 Waterford Place. Area subdivision, Summit, Owensboro, 42303. Okay. And then save. And again, you can put in as much as you want, as little as you want. Next, we're going to go to the client. So I'm going to click on the client, and you can either create a client or not. This just basically allows you to add them, like put their name on it, stuff like that. And then we're just going to start working through. Next thing being comparables. So we need to add comparables. And when we do that, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can either do a search by residential, we can search by address, we can search through MLS numbers, various other things. I typically will do a residential search, and I'll show you why. Because when you do a residential search, you can come up here and select map search. Now, before I do that, I need to set it on closed sales because remember, you mostly want to comp closed sales. You can use pending and active if you want, but I want to do closed sales, and then I'm going to do a map search. I'm going to come up here to the address part right here, and I'm going to put in the address. Always put in your city, it just finds it faster. So you can see right here's the address. So this is what is my neighborhood right here. And then I'm going to come to draw, and I'm going to draw a polygon. And basically I can select then this entire part of the neighborhood. Oh, I need to zoom out a little bit so I get that back end right there. There we go. Let me select all this, and then you just want to make sure it touches together, and see how it switched from the little plus sign to the hand. That's how you know you're touching in the right place. And these, now it just pulled all of these, so I can hit search inside of there, and it pulls up every closed sale. Because remember, I set closed sale and I set the map, so it pulls up everything. So I'm going to come over to closing date. By the way, if yours doesn't look like this, meaning it doesn't give you all of this information, you can actually come up and change the way that this looks. That is very simply to do. You can toggle stacks and or just come in and edit the views inside your settings. But what you really want to do is make sure that you have the closing date and click that twice. That's going to bring up the most recent sales. So you can see here, it has selected or has changed the date to the most recent sales. So now I'm going to look for the most comparable homes to mine that sold. I'm going to start with square footage. That's the number one indicator. All of these are significantly bigger than my house. This one would work because it's the 1300. Basically, I'm looking for those same ones that we just looked at. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to select, and again, I want to select more than less. I'm just paying attention to my time frame that I don't get too far out. That's probably too old. That's back in 2023, so let me change that. And I need to have at least 3, so let me select this one. And then I'm looking at beds and baths. I'm making sure that I'm in the ballpark of the same. Everything looks good there. They're all sold this year. This one's probably, questionably too old. It's about 8 months. I try to stay in 6 months, but when the sales aren't there to support it, we have to use what we use. So then I'm going to come up to this button. Now that I've checked my boxes on all my sales, I'm going to come up here and click Add to CMA. And I'm going to make sure you have just selected. So you can see here 3 selected. I don't want to add every single one of them. I just want to add the 3 that I have checked and hit select. And you can see now it just put my comparables in. I'm going to keep working through this. So I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to say, welcome to the adjustment module. What all do you want to make adjustments for? I want to make adjustments for above grades or finished square footage, beds, baths, so on and so forth. And you can actually add to that if you want. So I'm going to click those, and then I'm going to do the same thing. The only thing is when you do this manual, like the longer way, you have to put in your adjustment as well. And actually, hold on, I did the wrong one. Total above grade to finished square footage. There we go. If you have a basement, you can add stuff in here. So again, for the square footage, I'm doing 100 a square foot. For full baths, I'm doing 10,000. For half baths, I'm doing 5,000. For bedrooms, I'm doing 2,000. So I'm going to plug those in. I'm going to hit next. And then inside of here, this is somewhere I see some people kind of get confused. You can see it didn't actually add in. Here's the subject property. Here's our comparable. It didn't make the adjustments. And the reason it didn't make the adjustments is because we have to come up and hit this calculate adjustments button. So I'm going to click that. And you can see once I click that, it made the adjustment for me, right? Now, obviously, my subject property, I guess I forgot to put in square footage. So it made a really big adjustment. That's not going to be accurate. So I would have to come in, and all we have to do, and this is why I do like this, is a little bit easier. I can just come back to subject property. I can go to edit. And I can go find that information, above grade finished square footage, 1812, save subject property, jump right back down to adjustments, hit my calculate adjustment field again, select what I want, hit save, and you can see there's a more realistic number. It adjusted at 48,400. I can look at my next comp. It made the adjustments as I like there. My next comp adjustments as it likes there. I can also adjust for other things. This is what I do like about this one is instead of having to do my conditional adjustment, inside of square footage because it doesn't have a condition adjustment area. This one actually has a price adjustment. And on these, this is where I'm doing the price adjustment. So if this home is significantly, better than the other home, then I need to subtract out, and let's just say $10,000. There we go. Okay. And then once you save that, then again, you can go back through the comps and you can see, you don't have to save anything. You can look through each comp, make adjustments you want, then hit saved adjusted, and then hit OK. And then work your way through that. And I'll show you what this kind of looks like. It lets you choose the theme. So you have modern, vivid, whatever you like, whatever fits your eye the best. I use which one do I use the most? Hold on. I gotta remember. Oh, it's the modern one. And then if you click the preview, it'll just make it bigger where you can see what that looks like. Then you're going to choose if you need any footers, you can use this, or you cannot use this, just keep going. And then do you want any disclaimer? I always put information is deemed reliable, but not guaranteed. And then come down to presentation setup. So this is where you're going to put who is this prepared for, what is their address. And again, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you why I'm doing it. Plug in all this info. Make sure that all my data inside here looks good. And then I'm going to select which of these pages that I want. So I do want the cover page. I do want the cover letter. I don't want any of this stuff. I do want the subject property. I do want the summary of adjustments. I want the comparable, and you can do horizontal or vertical. I'm going to select them both so you can see what they look like. I want the CMA summary. I want the comparable. Oops. Let me select that one. There we go. I want the comparable price. You can do any or as much and as little as you want inside of this. So again, it has moving checklist, pricing, selling versus timing, showings, and actually I'm going to select a lot of this just so you can kind of see what this looks like. I don't normally use a lot of this stuff, but I'll use it just for your purposes. Let's just go ahead and select it all. Okay. And then I'm going to hit next. And then this is the cover letter. It's going to make sure that you like what it says. It's going to look at the resume, make sure you like what it says. You can see it's working me through all of those. If you don't want to go through all of that, just come down here to view presentation and then hit start. As long as you have your boxes checked to this side, it will only put together what you have inside of there. And then you can see here's the comparative market analysis that we built. You can see here's the cover letter that I have inside of here. Here's the subject property. And if I uploaded a photo, obviously it would show that. Here's the summary of adjustments that were made. Here's the comparable report where it summarizes what adjustments we made. Again, the comparable report horizontal, this is what it looks like. And you can see here's our adjustments. Here's our adjusted price. Here's the high, low, average, and median. Here's just the overall summary. And then this is the vertical and horizontal. So it's this, shows you the price in this type of graph, and then it shows you the price in that type of graph as well. Seller net sheet, again, I didn't fill it out, but you can fill this out. So it'll actually give them a net sheet as part of this, a map of where the comparable properties are and what they look like. Final comments, again, you can fill that out. And then this part where you get to determining value down, this is all pre-filled, and it's just the value of a real estate. What does this mean? Marketing planner, here's what I'm going to do. And make sure, so by the way, if you're going to use this, please make sure that you actually do all of these things. First impressions, so on and so forth. So you work your way through all of that. Make sure it looks exactly how you want it to look at. And by the way, there's that bell curve that you've heard me talk about. And then from that point, you can either print it or you can download it. And you can even save it as a current view. You can click this button and go to the first page, last page. Do all kinds of fun stuff in regards to this point. But what you're mostly going to do is click the download button, come in and save the CMA somewhere on your computer, and then issue it out to clients. So that's how you do CMAs using Paragon. The quick down and dirty, again, if you just come up to CMA and use this CMA preferences wizard, then that'll get you 99% of the way through the battle. And then the only question is, do you want to do a quick CMA or do you need to do a more thorough CMA that explains more details? So that's what I had for you today. I thought we would run 45 minutes, but it looks like I got through it in 31. So unless any of you have any questions, feel free to come off mute and I'll stay on here for as long as you need me and answer any questions you have. If not, we'll wrap up. And don't forget, this will be on YouTube if you need to go revisit how to do it in the future. Yep. All right. Thanks, y'all.